Man, if you watched that game, you know exactly why Ravens fans woke up with their blood pressure orbiting somewhere around Jupiter. It felt like one of those afternoons where every snap came como aviso and butito di perigo. Or a linha offensive a simple smente no aparesu, and trust me, nobody was expecting the Ravens to pitch a shutout against one of the most disruptive defensive players in football. But the way things unfolded made it look like the guys up front forgot they were lining up against one of the best pass rushers of this era. You see for sacks next to the same name, and suddenly every complaint online starts to sound justified. It was wild watching that pressure collapse the pocket snap after snap. Lamar barely having space to breathe, let alone plant his feet and deliver something clean. And the crazy part is no one needed a scouting report to know who number 95 was. The entire league knows exactly who he is and what he does, which makes it even harder to understand why he kept getting unbothered paths straight to the backfield. From the very first drive it felt like deja vu. You could see the Ravens trying to set things up, trying to create rhythm. But anytime the ball wasn't out immediately, Lamar had a wave of brown jerseys meeting him halfway through his drop. And you look around that offensive line and it becomes obvious that this is not one guy having a rough outing. This is a unit problem. It is a chemistry problem. It is a cohesion problem. These guys feel like 5 musicians playing different songs at the same time. And the result is just noise. Daniel Falele became the early punchline online, and yeah, the film isn't kind to him. But when you watch closer it becomes clear that the issues go far beyond a single blocker. Rosengarten had a couple of reps so brutal they could go straight into a horror reel. One of them looked like a defensive lineman just decided to shove a refrigerator downhill and Rosengarten happened to be standing in the way. And that play that turned into Lamar's second interception? When the ball ricocheted off an offensive lineman's helmet, that was exactly the kind of symbolic moment Ravens fans are tired of seeing. Because it says everything about how disjointed this group is right now. Even interior guys who usually hold their own were getting knocked back. You watch Linderbaum, Voorhees, even Stanley guys who are supposed to be anchors, and it just feels like they're all being swallowed by the momentum of a defense that smelled blood. And look, credit where it's due, Cleveland's front is no joke. You're dealing with arguably the most dominant edge rusher in football right now. A guy who looks like he was built in a lab and programmed to wreck quarterbacks. He's breaking records, blowing up protections, and ruining offensive coordinators' nights for fun. But you can't just shrug and say, well, that's him. You have to throw bodies at him. You have to disrupt his timing. You have to take away his first step. Allowing those clean one-on-one looks repeatedly is asking for disaster. And disaster is exactly what happened. There were flashes, though. That's what drives fans nuts. You see a drive where the line generates movement. Derrick Henry gets downhill. Lamar finds pockets to operate in. And suddenly everything clicks. Then 3 minutes later, the ceiling caves in and it looks like the whole group forgot how to block again. That inconsistency is what makes this situation so maddening. One drive feels like vintage Ravens football. The next one feels like 5 emergency backups trying to survive. And while everyone is pointing fingers at the offensive line, and rightfully so, it also affected the way Lamar played. He had some off-target throws, a couple behind receivers, some low ones. But when a quarterback spends most of a game dodging unblocked rushers, getting his feet taken out, or having to break the pocket instantly just to get a look downfield, it's hard to demand perfection. The interceptions weren't on him. And most people watching understood that. He's also clearly dealing with the wear and tear of the season. No one's at 100% right now, but you can still see he's battling through nagging stuff while trying to keep this offense upright. And that brings up the real issue. Why trot out the same 5 guys every single week? When the results haven't changed, why not try different combinations? Why not elevate someone for a shot? Because at some point, a coaching staff has to decide whether stability or improvement matters more if the current lineup is consistently struggling. It makes no sense to keep rolling them out like nothing is wrong. The bye week was the perfect time to adjust. They didn't do it. And now it feels like they're committed to riding this out. No matter how rough it gets, that decision might come back to bite Baltimore later. And everyone knows it. The wild part is this wasn't even a clean offensive game overall. Lamar made some great throws. Zay Flowers looked electric. Mark Andrews hit another milestone. Rashod Bateman had moments. Even Henry had some nice early lanes before everything clogged up again. But all of that gets buried under the avalanche of protection issues. You can't talk about anything else without circling back to the fact that the line is holding this offense hostage right now. And as if it wasn't enough watching them struggle, you look at the scoreboard and realize the Ravens still found a way to win. Another nail-biter. Another fourth-quarter migraine. Another reminder that this team might be talented, but loves making things harder than they need to be. Fans joke about Ravens' heart attack games, but at this point, it feels like part of the franchise identity as the game shifted into the second half. Things took an unexpected turn when Cleveland had to put their rookie quarterback on the field earlier than planned. You could tell immediately he was being thrown into a storm he wasn't ready for, not because he lacks talent, but because the situation around him was a recipe for disaster. No rhythm, no chemistry, no experience with the starters, and absolutely no protection in front of him. That combination is brutal for any young quarterback. And the Ravens' defense wasted no time reminding him exactly where he was. Every snap he took felt like walking into a maze blindfolded with defenders coming from every possible angle. Baltimore disguised pressure, shifted fronts, rotated coverages, and forced him to react instead of settle. Even before you start judging the stat line, you have to acknowledge that the kid was put in an impossible situation. When your very first real work with the starting offense happens in the middle of a divisional game against one of the toughest defenses in the league, there is almost no chance you come out looking sharp. It was obvious he didn't have the timing with his receivers. His footwork looked rushed. His mechanics looked sped up. And he was constantly throwing off balance because he didn't trust the pocket. And honestly, who would trust that pocket? Cleveland's offensive line was collapsing faster than a folding chair under a boulder. They were losing battles instantly, which left the rookie staring down free rushers over and over again, and the Ravens smelled every bit of that hesitation. You could see Roquan Smith and Kyle Hamilton circling like sharks the moment they realized the rookie was uncomfortable. Roquan said afterward that when you face a rookie, your job is to remind him of exactly that, and Baltimore took that approach personally. Hamilton even flashed the rookie's own celebration after one of his sacks, which tells you how intense the defense was playing. Not disrespectful, not malicious, but purely competitive fire. The kind of message a veteran defense sends when they want to establish dominance. And for all the conversation surrounding the rookie leading up to this game, he quickly realized that nothing in college prepares you for a defense that rotates elite speed, power, and disguise all at once. There was a moment late in the game when Lamar walked toward midfield, maybe looking to exchange a quick handshake, but the rookie never moved from the bench. You could see the frustration in his body language, the kind that goes beyond a tough loss. The kid was processing a whirlwind of emotions, probably replaying every snap in his head, trying to figure out how a situation that felt promising just hours ago turned into a lesson delivered at full speed. A teammate came over to console him, a reminder that everyone goes through these moments, but there's no way around it. This debut was a tough one, and honestly, it didn't have to be. He should have had reps with the first team weeks ago. Cleveland put him in cold and expected him to play hot. That's not how this league works. Baltimore, on the other hand, did exactly what a veteran defense is supposed to do when a rookie is thrust into chaos. They didn't let him breathe. They didn't let him dictate tempo. They were merciless with pressure. And although there were a couple of nice throws mixed in, every positive play felt like it required a miracle. Even on that long catch and run from the Browns wide out, it was more about missed tackles than anything the rookie did. And that brings up another concern that Baltimore cannot ignore. The tackling these last few weeks has been shaky, and it showed again in this game. Too many arm tackles, too many chances for extra yards, too many plays where defenders arrived but didn't finish. That kind of sloppiness becomes a real problem when you start facing teams that capitalize on every mistake. But despite the frustrations, the Ravens' defense once again played like a group that understands its job is to close the door when the offense isn't firing on all cylinders. Draymond Jones had a phenomenal outing, dominating interior matchups and closing run lanes like he had the blueprint on every play. Travis Jones showed flashes of becoming a legitimate force. The secondary, although giving up a couple of unnecessary yards, stayed physical and aggressive, even with the occasional breakdown in open space. The unit did what elite defenses do. They didn't let a struggling opponent off the hook. And that's really the story of this game. The Ravens didn't need perfection to win. They just needed key moments. They needed a stop here, a pressure there, A spark when the game felt stuck in the mud. That's been their identity all season, imperfect football overshadowed by resilience. Fans might joke that this team gives them weekly cardiac events. But the truth is these kinds of wins define a locker room, winning when things aren't pretty, winning when the offense sputters. Winning when you're clearly leaving plays on the field, those are the games that separate contenders from pretenders in the long run. Still, no one should ignore the warning signs. The offense has to be better, the line has to be better, the tackling has to be better. And you cannot keep expecting the defense to bail you out every time things get messy. If this team truly wants to make a run deep into the season, these aren't little details, they're make or break adjustments. You cannot survive against elite pass rushers with a line performing like this. You cannot expect your quarterback to absorb hits like that for months. You cannot keep allowing opponents to pick up easy yards after contact. Every one of these issues will matter later, but for now, a win is a win. And a divisional win always means something extra. Baltimore pulled off a victory in a matchup that historically gives them headaches. They swept Cleveland for the first time in years, fought through adversity, and came out the other side still standing. And even though fans are still holding their breath after another chaotic finish, they'll take this every time. Because at the end of the day, even an ugly win keeps you moving forward in a season where every inch matters, and while everyone walks away relieved, the conversations this week are going to be intense inside that building. The coaches know exactly where the flaws are, and the players know the tape isn't going to be kind. There are moments when a team can hide behind the final score, but this isn't one of them. The Ravens understand. They escaped with a win. Not because everything clicked, but because they were mentally tougher when it mattered. That's a great trait to have, but it cannot become a crutch. You want resilience to complement your execution, not replace it. So the challenge now is figuring out how to turn these flashes of potential into consistency before the schedule tightens and the margin for error disappears. Because the truth is simple, with the talent this roster has, they should not be relying on chaos to seal games. They should be the ones dictating the script, not reacting to it. And somewhere deep down, every fan watching felt that too. You look at Lamar, you look at the weapons around him, you look at how dominant this defense can be, and you can't help but picture how good this team would look if the small details stopped turning into giant obstacles. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support keeps us bringing you the latest news on the Baltimore Ravens. And hey, drop your take in the comments below. We want to hear from the flock. Whispers have been swirling through league circles over the past 24 hours. But the latest murmur may be the most electrifying of all. According to insiders close to the situation, SHEDEUR Sanders has made up his mind, and the Baltimore Ravens have reportedly presented him with an offer so compelling that he simply couldn't turn it down. No official announcement has surfaced, and both camps remain tight-lipped. Yet the buzz around training facilities and front office corridors has taken on a life of its own. The rumor began as a faint vibration, the kind that usually comes from someone who knows someone in a quarterback room. But it has rapidly grown into a low-grade roar. Some claim the Ravens have been quietly positioning themselves for weeks, crafting a pitch centered on opportunity, stability, and a long-term vision tailor-made for Sanders' style. Others insist the real hook was something more personal, an assertion of trust, a promise of development, and a clear roadmap for how he could evolve under a system that values precision, creativity, and composure. While nothing is being stated publicly, the alleged agreement has sparked lively speculation among analysts who are already envisioning how Sanders might fit into a Ravens scheme. Known for blending mobility with strategic discipline, observers have begun debating what this could signal for the team's depth chart and how Sanders' dual-threat capabilities might reshape certain offensive packages. Every whispered detail adds fuel to a story that refuses to quiet down. Sources close to the quarterback have hinted that Sanders was swayed not by flash, but by something deeper. The belief that Baltimore presents the environment where he can grow beyond expectations and carve his own path. The idea of stepping into a franchise with a strong identity, and one that may be subtly shifting its long-term blueprint, appears to have resonated with him. For now, all of this remains unconfirmed, suspended in that delicate space between rumor and revelation. Still, the chatter continues to swell around the league, and if the whispers hold any truth, the Ravens may soon find themselves at the center of one of the offseason's most intriguing storylines. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay in the loop, With exclusive news on our Baltimore Ravens, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what the flock thinks. Drop your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next one.